And more than ice water. Thanks for the courtesy laugh, Arnita.
You know, anytime you
A little intimidating. All right, welcome everybody. For those that don't know me, I am Kyle Cummins. I have the pleasure of being chair of 17Strong, currently living and residing in the Washington neighborhood. Let me just say wow with the tremendous response tonight. I know it's gorgeous out, and we would all probably rather be just a couple blocks away at Markham, but we'll be all right, okay? Anyways, I have the pleasure for the first half hour for the Better Hamilton Neighborhood series of introducing Adam Helms from Resident Services. And he'll talk about some of the exciting things and some of the great things we love to do in the summer, like checking in a live show and all of the things, you know, those concerts don't run themselves, and some of the other things that their crew does. And then the second half hour, we'll talk about our board and, you know, what some of our committees are doing, specifically the wonderful response that we recently have had with our microgrant committees. So we welcome you all to stay for that full hour, but totally understand if after, you know, Adam speaks that, you know, if you have other obligations, we understand too. But the second part will be the board. And with that, I think now I'd like to introduce Adam Helms. Please come on up. We appreciate you coming in.
You're pretty confident that they're going to stick around for the entire part of my presentation? You said it like they're going to stay here. I'm Adam Helms. I'm the Director of Resident Services for the City of Hamilton. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what our department does. We run the spectrum. There's really not a neat, confined way to define what we do. So we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. Here are the primary things that Resident Services does. Property maintenance, code enforcement, nuisance abatement, those kind of go hand in hand. Building rehabilitations and demolitions. We oversee garbage and recycling collection throughout the city. City-owned property maintenance. Somebody has to cut the grass and pick up the stuff that's on city-owned properties. And then our favorite part, RiversEdge. I'm not going to go through this in depth, but this is basically just our org chart for the department. It's broken down into 3 parts, really. Over here, we have our labor. This is what people lovingly and we refer to as the Quick Strike team. Then here in the middle, the Quick Strike team is headed up by Steve Maxwell. Here in the middle is our code enforcement inspection team. It's headed up by Marcus Oliver. Marcus is sitting over there. And we have 4 inspectors in the code enforcement team, and each of these inspectors are assigned to 4 neighborhoods. We have 2 of our 4 inspectors sitting with us tonight. We've got Tommy Hobson and Austin Johnson over there. Yeah, woo! And then on this side, we have what I call the business operations. So all these folks are out doing the work and doing inspections. Somebody has to stay at the office and send out the letters to notify people that they have property violations or send out bills. That's Tammy Rose. Tammy's over there as well. She handles all of our customer service. There's Steve. Steve's back there. He snuck in the back. All told, we're mostly seasonal employees because a lot of the work that we do is in the spring, summer, and fall when it's warm out. So when we're at peak season, we have 50-plus people in the resident services department. Of those 50, 10 are full-time. This is kind of in detail what we do, the top requests that we get. So last year in 2022, we received more than 5,000 service requests. That could be 311s, that could be phone calls, that could be emails, that could be our inspectors out in the field finding violations. So of those 5,000 service requests that we received, the top 3 are trash and rubbish on properties, tall grass on properties, and junk vehicles. Have the numbers here, 2,300 trash and rubbish, 1,400 tall grass complaints, and 400 plus junk vehicles. Work orders, that's the work that we actually do. We talked about the Quick Strike team. The Quick Strike team did 25,000 work orders last year. Our top 5 were the public trash can collection. So like all these trash cans that you see on the sidewalks, we have to empty those. We empty them usually 3 to 5 times a week. We emptied them 14,852 times last year. City-owned property mowing. There are 500 to 600 city-owned properties. We mowed them collectively, all told, 6,700 times. It comes out to about twice a month, 2 to 3 times a month. Trash collection for subscribing businesses. There are businesses on High Street, Main Street, and throughout the city. The city offers a business trash collection service. You can have trash collection once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, 7 times a week. So for example, we have trash collection here on High Street for some businesses 7 days a week, twice a day. We're out here 365 days a year. So we did 1,800 collections, private collections. We had 979 illegal dumping work orders, and then derelict property mowing. Those are like your repeat offenders for tall grass. We had 400 plus of those. I'm going to touch real quick on what garbage and recycling is. The city of Hamilton has 20,000 refuse and recycling accounts. Most of those are serviced weekly by Rumpke. They do our trash and recycling collection. My department manages that contract with Rumpke. So when Rumpke misses your trash or you have another trash-related issue, Tammy Rose over there is fielding most of those phone calls, 311 requests, and relaying that information back to Rumpke, and they're coming back to clean it up. We talked about the street cans, public trash cans, and then the trash collection on High Street and Main Street. That sums up trash collection. The Quick Strike team, we talked a little bit about this, mow and maintain 600 plus properties. We talked about the work orders that we do, 9,000 plus non-trash related work orders last year. So like illegal dumping, mowing tall grass, boarding up properties, managing the homeless camps, cleaning up after them. So what that comes out to, 9,000 plus Quick Strike team work orders. That means the Quick Strike team is doing 35 different tasks per day, or like work orders per day, non-garbage related. That's not including the trash cans on High Street. Code enforcement. This is new to the residents, relatively new to the resident services department. Code enforcement, so your property maintenance, kind of rundown buildings. Resident services took that on in 2019. Then we had a pandemic, so we couldn't really do too much because that was just a different time. And during that time, we've spent it building out our processes internally. We've revamped our code enforcement officers or efforts. We've talked about how we broke the city into neighborhoods. So each inspector has 4 neighborhoods. We built off of what the 17Strong group has built here. You guys established 17 neighborhoods throughout the city, and we use those as our geographic boundaries for our inspectors to focus on. It also helps having the same inspector in your neighborhood every time as opposed to a different face or a different person. You know who to call, you know who to email, and you're not going to get a different person showing back up at your door if you have, a property violation. So these guys, our inspection crew, has really come a long way with our customer service efforts as well. Again, we hit on this property maintenance, the type of requests that we get, 4,700 plus service requests or inspections in 2022. A lot of them are trash, grass, and junk vehicles. Here's the great part. 78% voluntary compliance. So what we call voluntary compliance, that's when we go out to somebody and say, hey, your grass is tall, or you need to fix this or that. And 78% of the time, the property owner is fixing the issue without us having to go back out there and fix it for them. We strive for voluntary compliance. We only want to have to break out, fines, court, written orders when we don't get cooperation. Our inspection crew, our customer service has really helped with this number. When we started in 2019, voluntary compliance was at like 62%. And then in 2022, it was at 78%. That's a pretty big jump in just 3 years. Building rehabs and demolitions. So we talked a little bit about the trash and grass issues. Those are some of the more routine things. What is not routine is building rehabilitations. even peeling paint is not a simple issue when you start dealing with people's homes. We'll talk a little bit about this in more detail, the process that we go through when we need to rehab or demolish or declare a property a public nuisance. And then business operations, again, we talked about that in the org chart. That's Tammy Rose. The big thing is here, so those service requests, we talked the 4,700 or 5,000, right? So our inspectors go out and say, hey, there's a violation here. That means we have to send out 5,000 letters. Like we have to legally notify the property owner that there's a violation, and we have to do that via mail. Tammy is sending out 5,000 letters. That also means that we usually get maybe a little less, but 5,000 angry phone calls coming back in saying, hey, what do you mean? What's wrong with my property? Tammy also has to handle those. She does a great job. She's been great, so is our inspection crew. Our inspection crew has been dealing with those calls as well, talking people through the issues instead of just saying, here's a problem, fix it. We work with them on timelines, give them suggestions on how they can abate it. It's not just a here's the problem, good luck. We really try to help them solve the problem as well. Okay, this is where we're going to get into the weeds, and I might rely on Marcus and some of my staff here. Public nuisances and rehabilitations. These are the tricky ones. So, Marcus, you want to come up here and I'm going to walk through this with you as well. So, usually this starts with a complaint of some sort. Whether it's a resident complaint, our inspectors see it. We go out and check it out, and there are some qualifying factors that have to be present to declare it a public nuisance. Things like the utilities have to be off. There are certain things we have to get to before we can even declare it a public nuisance. We can't just go out and say, hey, that property looks bad, it's a public nuisance now, right? The whole process just to get anything started is going to take plus or minus 90 days. When we do finally get a property to a public nuisance, we have really three options for it. We don't have to go into how we get to the public nuisance. We can talk through this. You have the option to rehabilitate a property. That's a public nuisance. We have the option to demolish it. And we have this newer option that we're going to try out, and that's called receivership, where essentially we appoint somebody to come in and fix it up and then put it back on the market. Marcus, do you want to give just a brief overview on some of the public nuisance things and the options we have?
So I think understanding how something gets to a public nuisance, it's not as simple as just declaring something a public nuisance because it looks bad. These things are tedious, and there's a lot of legal things. You're dealing with people's properties, and we can't make them live to our standard as long as they're up to code. So without having visual proof and pictures and stuff like that of not just the exterior but the interior and stuff like that, it's really hard to say this is a public nuisance. It needs to go to be rehabilitated, demolished, and the receivership is something new, and that gives us a different option where we're not demolishing these homes where we're growing as a city and we need more people in the city and more homes. So it usually takes 90 days because originally someone gets the first option to rehabilitate it without it being declared a public nuisance, and then they get another 30 days after that to say, hey, this is the line, it's time to go, or we'll step in. As far as that, the appeal process is involved in all that, so that's also what the time, why the time frame is what it is. Other than that, I think that's about it for the public nuisances.
Great, thanks. Real quick on the receivership option. One of the things that City Council said we want to invest in our neighborhoods. We want to see our neighborhoods fixed up. One of the things that we're seeing is, a lack of affordable quality housing. And what we need is more infill development, or what we're striving for is more infill development in our neighborhoods. Receivership gives us this option to try to rehab some houses as opposed to demolishing them. We demolished kind of the worst in the city. There are still a few out there. But the past 3 years, we've really taken down some homes that were eyesores, or structures that were eyesores. But this one, this is a nonprofit receiver. Think of it as like a contractor who goes in. We appoint them to fix it up. They fix it up. They sell the property. They take that money that they made from the sale of the property, and they put it into the next house that we identify as an option for a receivership. So essentially, our nuisance process and our inspectors are teeing up these properties for receivership, where we can try to pay it forward, if you follow me, fix them up and get that infill housing. Trash and grass, this is some of the more routine stuff. I think I was going to talk more about the process and how we manage it here, but I don't want to go too far in the weeds. The important thing to know here is that with trash and grass, it's going to take us 7 to 10 days because, again, we have to give the property owner notification by mail that, hey, you have a violation. And then we have to wait for that process to play out, go back, check that the problem is still there. And then if it's still there, we will send the quick strike team out. That's called a work order to clean it up. So when the property owner gets a tall grass order and they don't cut their grass, we're going to give them 10 days. And if they don't cut it after 10 days, our crew's going to go back out there and we're going to mow it. Anybody want to guess how much it costs for the quick strike team to mow your grass? What do you think? What would you pay a private contractor to mow your grass? Anybody? Does anybody pay somebody to mow their grass? $50. What do we charge? What is it to have the quick strike team cut your grass? $250 to have the quick strike team cut your grass. The point is here, we're not trying to be unreasonable, right? The point is here, it's a lot less expensive for you to cut your grass or for you to hire a contractor to cut your grass. Don't make the city come and do it. What we've seen, remember the voluntary compliance number, the 78%? It used to be the city charged $25 to cut people's grass. Like we were a discount lawn service, right? So like the second we started, we figured out what it cost the city, material, fuel, labor, the mailings, all that stuff. It cost us $250. I mean, is it the most efficient thing? Like, no, the private sector is way more efficient at doing that. Hire a private contractor to cut your grass. Don't make us do it. But that $250 price tag is the reason that we get that 78% voluntary compliance. We have repeat offenders, but that number is going down. That's the trash and grass side of things. That's just $250 to cut your grass. Let's talk about some of the other stuff. If you have junk like on your property, this is where it varies. It varies on how much time, material, and equipment we have to put into it. So if you have a lot of stuff and we have to come in there with a bobcat, it's going to be more expensive. So, when we have to call it breaking out the big guns, if you will, or whatever, but like the bobcat, when we have to break that out, it's going to be $500 minimum. Like even if and that's if you have a big pile of brush. We're coming out there with a bobcat, and it's probably going to cost $500. The point is here, that's our real cost. We're not profiting off of this. This is what we need people to do to clean up the property, and it has been working. It has been working. The other great part of this, again, we talked about how reasonable our inspection team are. We're not just out here throwing $500 fines at people. Our inspectors give people extensions. If people have, a death in the family or something's going on, we're going to work with you. We're not out here to be unreasonable. And that's a big part of the difference in code enforcement since we've been doing it. That's the code enforcement side of things. I'll run through RiversEdge really quick, and then we'll open this up for general discussion. RiversEdge, the best part of our job. I think it's one of the best things in Hamilton. In the summer, definitely one of the highlights. RiversEdge Amphitheater, the physical space, opened in 2013 without a roof. We did shows that first summer without the tent structure. The canopy came on in 2014. The physical space down there is owned by the city of Hamilton. The park, the grass, Markham Park, the Amphitheater Bowl, that is managed by the Hamilton Parks Conservancy. They manage and maintain it, cut the grass, fertilize it, restrooms. The music part, that is programmed by the RiversEdge Concert Series, which is a fund at the Hamilton Community Foundation. It's not the city, It's a volunteer-driven effort, much like 17 Strong or a lot of other 4th of July, other events we have here. The Rivers Edge Concert Series, as we know it, started in 2012 as the Downtown Hamilton Concert Series, or some kind of convoluted name that I gave it. We didn't have Rivers Edge Amphitheater. We knew Rivers Edge was being built. We wanted to start some momentum with live music in the city, so that first year before the amphitheater, we did shows on the show wagon, like under the parking garage. We moved it to the courthouse. We did a show on Bailey Square. We just kind of moved it around the city a little bit to let people know that we were going to be doing live music on a regular basis going forward. Now in 2023, we're doing usually 20 free concerts per year. We started out doing 6. And all of the bands, the music, the gear, the beer, it's all paid for by the Rivers Edge Concert Fund. One of the biggest misconceptions out there is that the city of Hamilton is giving Rivers Edge money for bands. Not the case. The city has never given us a dime for bands or any of that stuff. The city certainly invests in the park. The park is there for everybody to use. Rivers Edge has to fundraise the money for bands to pay for programming expenses every year. What's really incredible about our fundraising efforts is it's sponsored almost exclusively by small Hamilton businesses. Like, we don't have Fortune 500 companies pouring money into Rivers Edge. Like, Miller Lite certainly helps out a lot, and that's the closest thing we have to a bigger sponsor. But we have 20 to 30 sponsors every single year that are mostly Hamilton-owned, like Wilkes Insurance down here in German Village, the Electricians Union that works for the city, Wings on Brookwood. I mean, it's just these small things, and collectively they add up to anywhere from like $75,000 to $100,000 per year. And that's just small mom. This is an organically grown Hamilton event. That's what's so cool about it, is that the businesses get behind it, the residents get behind it. Nobody gets paid. We all do it because we love it. It's just something really fun. That's our first concert series poster, or one of the posters from the first year before I really knew how to make any of this stuff. I think Brandon helped me with this one. This is a Brandon Sarber design from 2012, the Revivalists. Now we have Big River Get Down. The Revivalist show under the parking garage turned into Cincinnati's longest standing music festival. Believe it or not, we are on like our 7th year, and it's been around longer. Like Bunbury fell off. That's not happening in Cincinnati. There's a lot of festivals that aren't happening. Big River Get Down, Rivers Edge, still going. Some of the cool shows we've done over the years, we focus on emerging artists. This is, Big River Get Down. It's kind of our all-encompassing paid admission festival. Wimmy Diddle is our country music roots festival. We've done some really great shows at Wimmy Diddle over the years. This will be the coolest show to date. I don't know if we'll be able to top this one. Tyler Childers and Billy Strings played together for free. It's the only place in America that it's ever happened. Both of those bands are selling out like big arenas. Billy Strings just sold out 3 nights at the Andrew Brady Icon Center in Cincinnati last week. Played Rivers Edge twice for free. It was wild. Charlie Crockett was here last year. Anybody recognize this guy or this guy? Yeah, we've done some cool stuff. We had Tyler Childers and Billy Strings at Wimmy Diddle. I don't know that I'll ever be able to top saying, like, man, Wimmy Diddle, like, that's the festival. We got Bootsy Collins to come to a country music festival in Hamilton, Ohio. Like, that's the coolest thing I can say about Wimmy Diddle. That's my last slide. We're just going to let Bootsy hang up there and answer any questions about code enforcement, Rivers Edge. I don't know how much time we have here, where we're at, but if there's...
I'd say we've got the better part of 7 to 10 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for Adam? And Adam, if we could pass that microphone around, I can help you with it.
Oh, this is fun.
Any questions for Adam? You got one over here.
Oh, yeah, it's like the Ricky Lake show.
I have 2 questions, or 2 comments and then a couple questions. First comment, I'm slightly hard hearing, so what do? I sit in the back of the room behind a pole, so if these questions are redundant, please excuse me. But I had a question about receivership. If a property goes into receivership and you either try to rehab it or demolish it, does the city pay for that, or how is that whole operation funded?
You want me to grab that mic back from you? Yeah, so initially, like if a house has to get demolished, and the property owner's just not helping, they're non-responsive, they haven't, can you hear me all right? Okay. And we have to demolish the property, they're likely not going to pay, they're not going to pay for that demolition cost, right? So the city has to pay for that. What we do then is we pay for that demolition cost, we turn around and lean it back to the property as property taxes. Eventually that property goes into foreclosure, sheriff's sale, and hopefully we get it back into useful, in the hands of somebody who wants to do infill development or invest in the property. That's ultimately what we're after, voluntary compliance and investment in the property. We do not want to see disinvestment. We want to identify the people who want to rehab properties and invest in Hamilton. Yes, sir.
So my question is that when these properties go on to say foreclosure or, getting ready to get tore down or whatever, because there's been several times I've been to try to buy property and then the city tell me I can't buy that property. But then a year later, that property's being torn down. And I'm like, I could have bought that property, rehabbed it, and lived in it. But the city tells me, no, can't buy the property. Why? Well, because the owner. Well, if y'all gonna tear it down anyway, won't you just sell it to somebody who's willing to rehab the house and live in it? I can't understand it. You're tearing down a perfectly good house when somebody done moved out, don't want to do nothing with it, it becomes dilapidated. But when you got people who really want to try to buy the house and fix it up in their neighborhood where they grew up at, the city tells me no. But then you tear it down, now I got another blighted property sitting there, an empty lot. It doesn't make sense.
I think so, without knowing the specifics of your situation and wanting to buy a property, there are processes we have to go through. Like we can't just be like, hey, we're tearing this. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but Bobby. Hey, we're tearing this house down, Bobby. You want to buy it? Like we can't go out and solicit, interested parties because we're the government, right? We would have to offer that to everybody in the city, and that's what we do. We publish notices in the newspaper. Then it goes to sheriff's sale. Like there's a step-by-step process that it has to go through to make sure it's on the level. Because if me and you were buddies, let's say me and you were best friends, and I just said, hey man, we're tearing this house down, when you want to buy it, it could get real sideways real quick. That's why we have very specific processes for that. And Marcus here is working on building relationships in the city. In the past, before code enforcement came over to us, it was very much like, hey, we're tearing this down, not a lot of gray area. What Marcus is doing is trying to work with the property owners and lay out the path forward. You have these three options: demolition, receivership, rehab, right? So Marcus is trying to establish rapport with the owners, and he's been pretty successful. He's been on the job for what, 6 months, 5 months? Yeah. And he's been working with property owners to figure out who's really interested in who can do this and who can't. So he's kind of got to be our filter up front. I'll let him talk.
And so going back to your question, we don't actually own the property either. So when it does get tore down, whatever the cost is for us to tear that property down is going back on that property. And that person still owns that property plus the cost of that demo. So, it's not like we own it or we're going to do anything with it. The house has just become in such disrepair that you can't repair it, or it's going downhill quick, or it's a public nuisance. So usually that's those cases. You may have had a different case, I'm not sure, but that's what we're hoping with the receivership, where we don't tear any more homes down and those homes can be put back into the community. So.
Any other questions? In the back. I got you. I'll just walk it around. You're in the back. I'm coming back here.
All right. So I've talked to a couple people. Have you guys gone exclusively to mailers, or are you guys still doing door tags? Because I talked to somebody over in my neighborhood where, being in Lindenwald, we may go 10 days without getting our mail. So we've had issues where people have come home and then all of a sudden find out that they now have a bill for $250 for mowing the lawn when they never actually received anything in the mail until after that's happened. So between that and the heavy rains and winds we've had, tags and everything else for UPS and FedEx are being lost alone within what's going on right now. So there's been a lot of leeway where people are upset because they're not getting the notification on time.
That's a great question. We run into that quite a bit. Like we talked about COVID, how that interrupted mail delivery process. Did you guys hear the question? Did everybody hear the question? Okay, what happens if we don't get mail notification via mail or a door tag? So we do both. We try to do the door tags as often as we can, especially if we go and knock and nobody's home. So we do want to post on the property, and then we have to send it by mail. There are two types of mailing. There are circumstances where we have to do certified mail. Like that's usually when we're dealing with rehabilitations and demolitions. But with the U.S. mail, it says in our ordinance you have to provide notice via U.S. mail. Now, we do get those kicked back sometimes, undeliverable. That's where Tammy comes in. You can't see her over here. But Tammy does a great job of working with people. Hey, I didn't get notification. And sometimes we can say, yes, you did, because we have pictures of it. Like our people take pictures of it posted and stuff. But most of the time, she'll say, hey, that's fine. When can we work this out? So I don't know. Does that answer your question? It's a combination of both. And we have to be firm, but we also if we had 50-mile-an-hour winds, right? And we went and hung door tags last Friday. And well, I didn't get a door tag. Well, we're going to use common sense and say, well, yeah, we had windstorms. But if we get you on the phone, if you are calling us, we'll let you know. That's one of the biggest.
I can go into detail later after everything's kind of set up.
Okay. You want to say something, Tim?
Just one quick thing.
Yep.
I just want to say, when we first took this over, the mailing time was 5 days. That's what the health department allowed. I quickly realized that was not going to cut it. I was getting phone calls all day, every day. It's now, from the day we mail it, we don't re-inspect for 11 days. So by ordinance, we have to allow 3 days mailing. We're allowing 11 before we even go back and recheck it. And if a person receives a door hanger, they can get in touch with us. And like he already said earlier, we're willing to work with people and give more time if needed, as long as we know that you need more time. That's the main thing.
Let's do maybe one more question.
Oh man, you pick. It's your meeting. How am I supposed to pick this one? You pick.
Right here.
I know you guys said you guys are willing to give people more time, but what if they can't do anything about it? For themselves.
Like if you're talking to somebody who's physically disabled or something. Yeah, we run into that quite a bit. Elderly people who are physically disabled or not able to do the work. We do have some programs available, SELF will help low income or elderly folks with some rehabs and stuff like that. One of the other things that we've really tried hard to do, and occasionally we'll get some success, is when we run into issues like what you talked about, if we can utilize folks like 17Strong, a volunteer effort, to go and help somebody out like that, that goes a long way. If there are extenuating circumstances, Tammy again or myself has to be the arbitrator and just be like, look, this lady can't do it, we're going to help out. Like I said, code enforcement is rarely black and white. There's a lot of gray, and a lot of people say, hey, why can't you do this, this, and this? There are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of gray area. We're trying to apply it as equally as we can across the city.
One more question here.
Yeah.
This is more on the city property than it is a residential property. I live on A Street, on the Markham Loop, the bicycle trail. In the 300 block of A Street on down, I worked 3 months last year trying to get the city to cut one side. The whole bicycle path, which is over 4 foot wide, was completely over 5 foot tall with grass. Miami Conservancy mows the levee. They say the city owns that site and the levee wall. I went out with the weed eater and did 2 blocks of it myself. But then I fell on my knee. I had to have knee surgery. I couldn't do it. When the city did come, they said, we don't own this, and we're not, And it took me 6 weeks after that. I had pictures to get, I got the vice mayor, I got Jacob Stone Welch. I don't even know him. He's helped me a lot with this. I don't even know him. And he knows me. You know who I am. I've been trying to keep the city property next to me cleaned up. But it's, who do I report this to? I know he's not in the head of it, but he's been an ear for me.
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know the specifics of that situation. Be glad to look into it. The bike trail and the levee is it's a convoluted mess, right? So even the city-owned properties is a little bit difficult to manage because like the city owns right away, right? Like the traffic islands in the middle of the street, that's city-owned property. My department doesn't cut it. Public Works cuts it. So like there are different angles inside of this. I will certainly. Steve, do you know anything about that? Yeah, without off the top of my head, I don't know the answer for you. I wish I did, but I don't. To be very honest with you.
People are not even using that side of the river because they can't get through on their bikes and stuff. So because it's such a mess with grass, and I can't cut 5 blocks.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry.
So that's on. That would be
On the
west side, south of the
300 block
bridge.
of Main Street.
300 and 400 blocks.
Okay, I don't know I don't know the answer to your question off the top of my head. Certainly check it out.
Yep, we'll get back to you.
I know a guy. This guy, Jacob Stone. I know. I'm just kidding. We will certainly help. We will certainly do our best to help.
All right, round of applause for Adam and team. Yeah, and if the folks at home and in the crowd tonight want to get a hold of the Resident Services Department to ask another question, there you go.
3-1-1 system. These 3-in-1 system. It's the fastest way to get requests to us, please.
Great. Thank you, Adam. No, you're good. All right, and with that, we're closing the Better Hamilton Neighborhoods series section of our meeting, and we'll move on to our 17Strong Advisory Board meeting. You're all more than welcome to hang around. I suspect there are quite a few of you here who have applied for microgrants or may be curious for that section of the meeting, which will really be